from the agenda. The board is given an opportunity to comment on the issue and or place a motion on the floor. An opportunity for discussion may be presented, at which time the public may participate, and a roll call vote will follow. Number one, approval or amendment of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to amend the agenda. We have just a couple of typos, one in item number 15 and one in item number 16. They are both the same. Talks about the acres. The acres should be 0.03 in both 15 and 16.
All right.
I would approve it with that amendment.
Mr. Chairman, I second approving the amended agenda.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the amended agenda. Here we go. Roll call vote.
Kolosik,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Patton,
Yes.
Motion passes. Number two, years of recognition, service recognition. Let's just start right off the top here. Who have we got this morning?
Mark's on, and Mark's on.
Good morning, Mark.
Morning.
Here we go.
All right, Mark. Mark has served as a death investigator for Marshall County, and we're extending an expression of appreciation for 20 years of service. And we hereby present this certificate.
Thank you.
Mark, I want you to share what you used to do to my wife. Can you, what?
I plead the fifth.
The fifth. You know, she still has nightmares about that, Mark. I hope you're happy with that.
I'm sorry. I blame it on Peterson's next door to me. That was the influence.
Yes. The neighbor boys, these were the neighbor boys to us, and they used to throw mud balls on top of our house, and it drove my wife a little loony. So I thank you for that.
I'm still sorry.
Verification, really?
Tomorrow's headlines would have really been interesting.
No. Yes. All right. Thank you very much for your service, Mark. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Just say Mark's going to need a different certificate, right?
Yeah. All right. Next is Marilee Weatherman, who has served Marshall County as the Chief Deputy County Assessor 15 years. And we hereby present this certificate to Marilee. We appreciate the service that Marilee has given us for all this time. Really stepped up here in the last couple of years with the loss of our assessor.
Marilee originally started in our IT department.
Did she?
Many years ago.
All right.
And since then moved into the assessor's area.
Okay, very good.
You got it. Okay.
Roderick Oates has served Marshall County as Patrolman 2. And from what I understand, Patrolman 2 means he is on a road grader. We're extending an expression of appreciation for 20 years of service to Roderick. And I bet he goes by Rod. Would that be safe to say?
Yes.
Okay. So,
Rod does the northwest corner up there on us.
oh, he is your
Rod does a good job.
road grader. Great.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Thank you to Rod. Next, we have Jordan Gaffney, who has served Marshall County as the first assistant to the county attorney. We're extending an expression of appreciation for 10 years of service to Jordan. So Jordan, are you with us this morning?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Right, very good. We appreciate you taking time to be with us here this morning.
Thank you.
All right.
Start when you were like 10, Jordan, or what? You were a prodigy, I guess.
I'm just very fortunate that Jennifer Miller was willing to take a chance on me, and very thankful for the opportunity here.
Well,
That's great.
you're fun to work
We
with.
thank her for that.
Yeah.
All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Number 3, approve minutes from the regular session of October 13th, 2020. Number 4, accept the sheriff's quarterly report, July through September of 2020. General basic service fees, $11,660.50. General basic interest checking, $10.27. General basic mileage fees, $2,951.66. Number 5, file district court report 9/2020. General supplemental fund surcharge of $649.44. Number 6, approve transfer of funds, transfer number 913, a quarterly transfer of $670,000 from Rural Services Fund to Secondary Road Fund. Number 7, accept the manure management plan for Burt Farm and Livestock Incorporated, ID number 60557. Manure management plan received and placed on file with no changes made to the manure management plan. Number 8, accept recorder's quarterly report, 9/20. Records Management Fund, $1,788. E-commerce Fund, $1,788. The General Basic Fund, $63,928.33. Number 9, approve the claims. Approve claims as audited and authorize the county auditor and recorder to issue payment of the same. The listing of claims paid at this meeting and all claims paid in the month of October will be published as part of the first meeting in November. I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we approve the consent agenda as printed.
Mr. Chairman, I'd second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as printed. Any discussion on any of these items?
No, sir.
Roll call vote.
Solosik,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Patton.
Yes.
Motion passes. Number 10, approve the personnel action of hiring Courtney Watson, Marshall County Medical Examiner's Office, death investigator, full-time, $200 per case, effective November 1st of 2020.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve this personnel action.
Mr. Chairman, I will second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve this personnel action. Is there any comment?
I would like to hear from Mark Bethel on this.
Mark, would you speak to this for just a moment?
Mark, you're muted.
Sure, can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, so we have decided to add Courtney with your approval. I've worked with her probably the last 12 or 13 years. She is the crime scene tech for the police department here in Marshalltown. She is very good with families. She's very detail oriented, very good at the clinical aspects of her work, which also coincide with many of the deliverables as a death investigator. So I've been working with her kind of offline, probably for about the past 8 weeks, just to gauge her level of interest. This is something she is interested in, has been interested in, and so with your approval, we'd like to move forward. My father also is very impressed with Courtney. He's not a man who gives compliments to anyone, even me, but he has always been very complimentary of Courtney and her attention to the detail efforts. She's very thorough and will be very easily brought up to speed on her role as a medical legal death investigator for Marshall County as well. We do have approval from Chief Tupper through, I believe, written correspondence and verbal. Courtney and one of her supervisors, I believe, is either Patricia Tyne or maybe Captain Chris Jones. Everybody at the police department is on board for this. There will be a couple types of cases where she will not be able to serve in this role if she's called. Those would be any homicides and any police involved. I guess deaths is the way I'm going to describe those. Police involved deaths, as far as the state of Iowa is concerned, can be before apprehension, during, or following apprehension. So any of those cases, ordinarily, the jurisdiction that's directly involved will recuse itself completely and involve the DCI and or a neighboring county to help with the investigation. So she won't be involved with those. Other than that, she's going to be up and running as far as all the ER deaths, local long-term care facilities, any motor vehicle fatalities, again, not involving any type of law enforcement. And we're very excited to have her on board. As far as training, there is a couple different levels that's provided through St. Louis University, the med school down in St. Louis itself. Those are on hold now, given all the COVID restrictions. Confident as soon as those training sessions are available, she's on board to go down and get trained up as well. So very excited. It's going to be a very good thing for Marshall County. She's well respected in the community, both by the sheriff's office and obviously her department. So
Very good. Is there any other discussion here before we? All right, do we need a motion at this point?
We have a
We
motion.
do.
We have a motion? All right. Roll call vote.
Solosek,
Yes,
Thompson,
Yes.
Patton.
Yes.
motion passes. Thanks again, Mark, for sharing that with us.
you're welcome. One more thing, I'm sorry. I guess Lisa may be offline. Once she's approved by the state medical examiner's office, which should be a day or so after this, I'll call you offline and we'll make sure she's falls underneath the same type of insurance coverage that Delenn Hoskins Maskell Tree from Tama County is. So we'll just need to dot I's and cross T's there.
All right, very good. We'll move on to our next action here. Hire Travis Conder, County Attorney's Office, Assistant County Attorney, full-time, $65,000 a year, effective October 30th of 2020.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we approve this personnel action, hiring Travis Conder, County Attorney's Office, Assistant County Attorney, full-time, $65,000 a year, effective October 30th, 2020. And I would like to add that this is a replacement for an individual that is leaving our employ.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I second that.
it's been moved and seconded to hire Travis Conder for Marshall County, County Attorney's Office, Assistant County Attorney, full-time, $65,000 a year, effective at the end of this month, October 30th. Roll call vote.
Solosek,
Yes,
Thompson,
Yes.
Patton.
Yes.
motion passes. Change of status and change rate of pay for Donnie Box. Change of status from truck driver 2 to truck driver 3. Change rate of pay from $26.07 an hour to $26.39 an hour, effective October 31 of 2020.
And
Go ahead.
this is just a union process. When our truck drivers make qualifications on motor grader, they move up to truck driver 3, and then we can, use them to fill seats in motor graders as needed. And it's a big help. I encourage our drivers to always get that training. We're hoping we get a few that someday will want to just move up to motor grader as we, have an open spot out in the county. So.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the personnel action of Donnie Box, change status from truck driver 2 to truck driver 3, change rate of pay from $26.07 per hour to $26.39 per hour, effective October 31st, 2020.
Mr. Chairman, I would second that.
We have an approval And a second to change the status and change of rate of pay for Donnie Box from $26.07 an hour to $26.39 an hour, effective October 31 of 2020. If there's no other discussion, roll call vote.
Solosek,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Patton.
Yes.
Motion passes. Change of status and change rate of pay for Brian Hart. Change of status from truck driver 2 to truck driver 3. Change rate of pay from $26.07 an hour to $26.39 an hour, effective October 31st of 2020.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we approve this personnel action, changing the status and change rate of pay for Brian Hart. Change status from truck driver 2 to truck driver 3, change rate of pay from $26.07 an hour to $26.39 an hour, effective October 31st, 2020.
And Mr. Chairman, I'd second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve this personnel action. Roll call vote.
Solosek,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Patton.
Yes.
Paul, does that get all our seats filled?
Well, it doesn't really change that. We're set for winter, other than the fact that we don't have any part-time, help. So we're holding our breath that we don't have any sort of pandemic issues, because losing operators for 14 days when we're in a snow event could put us in a little bit of trouble. So we're fingers crossed, and I'm still taking applications for part-time truck drivers, for snow operators.
All right, we'll move on to number 11. Memorandum of Understanding, discussion and possible action on approval of a memorandum of understanding between the Teamsters Local 238 and Marshall County Sheriff's Office Unit relating to the assignment of overtime for deputies.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to, do we approve this then?
Yes.
Or do we, okay, we don't adopt it?
No.
Okay, I would move to approve the memorandum of understanding between the Teamster Local 238 and Marshall County Sheriff's Office Unit relating to the assignment of overtime for deputies. This memorandum of understanding shall be in effect for 60 days, effective October 4th to October 31st, 2020, and may be extended upon mutual agreement of the parties.
Mr. Chairman, I would second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve this memorandum of understanding with the Teamsters Local 238 and the Marshall County Sheriff's Office. Any discussion?
This is similar to the memorandum of understanding we've had in the past. It's just making it a little more official, reading it into the record.
Okay.
And this will give the sheriff the ability to schedule his staff in a manner that he needs to.
All right.
I just have one question on
Yes.
the days. Can you clarify, does the date range just when the 60 days starts? Because there's not 60 days in that window.
Of October 4th to October 31st.
That's the start,
Yes.
that's the possible start day is in there
That's the
somewhere?
Start date, and it mutually gets agreed to extend it
Okay,
between the Teamsters rep and the union and the sheriff.
Why is it just in effect for 60 days?
If they find out that it doesn't necessarily work, they can go back and change it.
I see.
If they find out that it is acceptable on both sides of the party, they just continue.
Okay. Any other discussion? None? Roll call vote.
Solosek,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Patton.
Yes.
Motion passes. Number 12, Buildings and Grounds Department. Discussion on possible action to approve additional metal repairs for roofing of Belvedere, Illinois, in the amount of $55,162.24. Is there a motion at this time?
Well, Mr. Chairman, then I would move to approve additional metal repairs on the courthouse by Renaissance Roofing of Belvedere, Illinois, in the amount of $55,162.24.
Mr. Chairman, I would second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve this additional metal repair on the courthouse. Open for discussion.
Yeah, this is work that needs done around the building in a few different areas. I gave you guys some photos of what's actually happening here. The bulk of the work is right below the gutters. There are some decorative rosettes and some metal that needs reworked and patched, and it's just above and beyond the skill set of my staff. I know it seems a little late for this, but we really wanted to make sure we quantified and got everything that was an insurance responsibility in that scope of work before we actually evaluated what is our scope of work.
And this is insurance responsibility.
No, this is county responsibility.
Okay.
So this is just kind of some facelift stuff that has deteriorated over the years that we couldn't get to in work, but now that there's scaffolding there, it's the right time to do it.
Boy, now that I've seen the close-ups of it, I didn't realize they're in that tough a shape. Are they gonna be totally replaced or taken down and sandblasted and replaced?
It depends on the actual element itself. Some of it will be taken down and replaced. In other parts, we will take off bits that are damaged and reuse them in other spots. So we tried to really get a good understanding of how much can we reuse and what needs to be replaced.
Does this go around the entire perimeter of the building?
It does. So this is basically gutter all the way up to the dome on just metal patching that needs done.
Well, keeping consistent with our theme that we want to keep this in proper condition for the next 100 years, I would say we've got to go with this.
No, I agree.
It would be imprudent of us not to.
Of course. Do you anticipate any more situations like this?
I
Hard to
have,
say.
yeah, there's one more issue that Renaissance has worked out, and I'm waiting on a price. There is a fiberglass skirt below the dome that has a wood structure behind it, and the wood has deteriorated, and there needs to be some replacement there. So they're working on some pricing for that. That should be the last issue we're going to see on the exterior of the building. When we get to the inside, there's bound to be something that comes up, but I don't see is a huge dollar number.
Well, we've got better wood to put in there than what was put in there.
Absolutely, green treated, and
Yeah.
there's some really quality stuff out there. At the height of where it's at on the building, it'll be a more expensive type of lumber because it'll need to be fire rated and green treated. But that should last a lot longer. And with the work we're doing, covering some of that up with copper and fiberglass, it shouldn't get near as much water as it did before, which will help a lot.
Is that, how many square feet is that, or how is it 3 foot high, 4 foot high?
It's all the way around the tower, and it's probably 4 to 5 feet high, but it's not all of the wood behind the structure. So when we think about the skirt, it's probably 3 feet deep and 4.5 feet high, but there's only probably 60% of the wood that needs replaced. A lot of it's salvageable.
Okay.
And we're just gonna replace what's bad. Doing the whole thing is just too much. And some of it's still in good shape. So you could really tell where some of the leaks were. It's like a whole, this 5 foot section just needs to be replaced, but the next 5 foot section over is in good shape.
Very good.
I'm still working on pricing for that. I'll get it to you when I get it.
Well, if there's no other discussion, roll call vote.
Solosek,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Patton.
Yes.
Motion passes. Number 13, Marshall County Engineer Contract. Discussion and possible action to approve the contract with Paul C. Geilenfeld III, Marshall County Engineer, for the next 3 years.
Mr. Chairman, I would motion that we approve the contract that will be presented with Paul C. Geilenfeld III, Marshall County Engineer, effective December 1st, 2020 through November 30th of 2023.
Mr. Chairman, I'd second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the contract with Paul Geilenfeld from December 1, 2020 till November 30th of 2023. Any discussion?
If you'd like, I'll start out with the previous contract. We left the language the same, but changed the numbers. I've got a couple recommendations. The previous contract, Paul was at 1.75% increase for a 3-year period of time, when all of our other employees were getting 2.25 and 2.5. So because of that, I would like us to consider starting this with an immediate bump of $2,000 to make up for a little bit of that inequity. That being said, to follow the next 3 years, starting on 7/1 of each year, to mirror what we have done with our other union contracts and employees of 2.5, 2.5, 2.5. Paul is currently at $113,880. If we add 2,000 of that, we're at 115,880. And then the first year at 2.25%, it would go to 118,777. The second year, it would go to 121,746. The third year would go to 124,790. This will be very competitive to what other engineers are with Paul's level of experience. I did look at many of our neighboring counties, and it's really hard to compare because of our differences of our contracts with some of the counties are sharing engineers. Many of the engineers in the neighboring counties don't even come close to Paul's level of experience. A couple of the counties, the engineer is almost not a full-time individual. Paul is full-time. I personally have had the pleasure of working with Paul for 10 years. We're not perfect in our secondary roads, but I believe many of the changes that he has made in this 10-year period, that we run an extremely tight shop and operation. And I think we give the taxpayer a very good bang for the buck for what we get in with road use tax and what we do in the secondary roads. So I would recommend a $2,000 immediately bump, followed by 3 years of 2.5, 2.5, and 2.5 increase.
Is this 2,000 retroactive to?
No,
Just starting now? then?
I would make it December 1st. And the other increases would be on July 1st of 2021, 2022, and 2023. And I would recommend this contract run from December 1st, 2020 through the 30th of November, 2023.
All right.
So the only thing we have changed in the existing contract is the dates and the numbers of increase.
Mhm. Can I get a clarification on what the rest of the county, what we're doing with the rest of the employees? It seems like it's stuck in my head that it's 2.25. Is that not correct? Is it 2.5?
The union contracts were 2.5.
Okay. All right. So we'll leave things the way that you have presented them to us. Okay. Very good. Is there any other discussion?
Nope, that's fine.
All right, we have a motion. Roll call vote.
Solosik,
Yes,
Thompson,
Yes.
Patton.
Yes.
motion passes. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Number 14, approval of lease agreement addendum. Discussion and possible action to approve a lease agreement addendum between Marshall County, Iowa and Iowa Valley Community College District, Orpheum Theater, 220 East Main Street. This lease agreement addendum is for temporary office space for Marshall County courts to hold court proceedings as a result of COVID-19 to assist with proper social distancing. Nan, can you speak to this for just a moment?
I can. The current situation that the courts are using the Orpheum Theater for social distancing is working very well. Our lease end is December 31. I think when we negotiated this summer, we all were hoping that COVID would kind of be over. You know, there was always that glimmer of hope, and it's not going to be. I don't feel it's going to be over by the end of August. So the college has said they're not going to be using that facility through the summer, but was really wanting to get just a little assistance in lost rental revenue that they could have done if it was empty. Because this is for COVID, we can use CARES funding to get reimbursed for any costs that we have there, that we have through December 31st. Now, the ironic thing is anything you buy through December 31st that can be used in the future is fine. We also have to have it billed by November 16th. So you have to anticipate your expenses a month and a half in advance as well.
So we are anticipating our future expenses
Yes.
and incurring them.
And incurring them, yes. We're also going to make an estimated payment for our utilities for that entire time frame. It'll be a little low. I don't want to go the other direction because we are getting funding for this, but so we should be able to utilize that. Then my next step will be using FEMA money for getting any residual, and we can get reimbursed 75% of that. So if I'm going to ask for, I'm going to make a payment of $27,000 for through August 31st for utilities. Kathy Pink did an estimate. She goes, well, you could do more. And I'm like, no, I want to do less so that we make sure that we spend all that we bill to CARES. And then any residual over that, I can bill to FEMA. And FEMA, we get reimbursed 75% and we're responsible for 25%. So it should make a very small amount.
So CARES is at 100%,
Yes.
FEMA is at 75%.
Yes.
Okay, I got it.
Yes. I'm meeting with the FEMA person later this week to just, again, to just go over this one more time and to try to understand how long we can incur. We all know we're going to have COVID expenses past December 31. And, you know, how long can we utilize the FEMA funding? And that's one question I haven't asked yet. But Kathy Pink went through the finance director at the college and really tried to do a good estimate for us and came up to like 27.8. So I just backed it down to 27 just to be safe there.
Very good, thank you. Is there any other discussion? We still need a motion then,
We still need a motion.
yes, we do.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move to approve the lease amendment agreement or addendum between Marshall County, Iowa and Iowa Valley Community College District Orpheum Theater for the use by Marshall County courts. This addendum is effective July 22nd, 2020 through August 31st, 2021.
Mr. Chairman, I would second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the lease agreement with Orpheum Theater. Is there any other discussion at this point? Roll call vote.
Solosik,
Yes,
Thompson.
Yes.
Patton.
Yes.
motion passes. Number 15, secondary road, permanent easement for J15 bridge replacement project. Discussion and possible action on approval of a right of entry agreement with Dustin T. and Sarah D. Dower. This agreement is for permanent right of way on approximately This is one of the changes that we need to make. It's
Zero.
.030 acres needed for the construction of Bridge J15 on 260th Street.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we approve this agreement for permanent right-of-way approximate of .030 acres needed for the replacement of Bridge J15 on 260th Street in the amount of $540 with Dustin T. and Sarah D. Power.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve this agreement with Dustin and Sarah T. Dower. Any other discussion?
The contract just itemizes what we're paying for as far as the ground, the actual right-of-way easement of 0.03 of an acre, we're paying $240, including $100. We also, in addition to that, is $100 for allowance to update abstract in the future, and the $200 for the right of entry agreement of the temporary easement that we need that's outside of the permanent acquisition during the time of construction. So the total to the landowner is the $540.
All right, very good. Is there any other discussion?
No, sir.
Roll call vote?
Solosik,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Patton.
Yes.
Motion passes. 16, secondary road permanent easement for J15 bridge replacement project. Discussion and possible action on approval for right of entry agreement with Renee D. and Deborah M. Holsappel. This agreement is for permanent right of way on approximately 0.030 acres needed for the construction of bridge J15 on 260th Street.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve this agreement for permanent right-of-way on approximately 0.030 acres needed for the replacement of Bridge J15 on 260th Street in the amount of $540.
Mr. Chairman, I will second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Paul, I assume this is the same situation.
This is the separate quadrant, but it's basically a mirror image of the acquisition that we need for just it just helps us get the proper ditching around the ends of the bridge. But it's the same itemized schedule as the previous agreement.
Okay. If no other discussion, roll call vote.
Solosik,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Patton.
Yes.
Motion passes. Number 17, secondary road permanent easement for J15 bridge replacement project. Discussion and possible action on approval for right of entry agreement with Larry A. and Joynell E. Raymond. This agreement is for permanent right of way on approximately 0.13 acres needed for the construction of bridge J15 on 260th Street.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we approve this agreement for permanent right-of-way on approximately 0.130 acres needed for the replacement of Bridge J15 on 260th Street in the amount of $1,340 between Larry A. and Joynell E. Raymond.
Mr. Chairman, I'd second that.
It's been moved and seconded. If I can just point out that the difference in the amount of dollars between the Raymonds and the other two parties is because there's more property involved.
Yes, it is a slightly larger parcel, a little bit more work on that quadrant of the bridge. And I also want to mention too that my assistant, Mark Henches, has done an amazing amount of work getting these together as quick as he did, because he was meeting with landowners after work, and trying to meet people, because, people have, lives and jobs and stuff. But Mark has gone out of his way, especially to get these approved.
Very good. Thank you to Mark. Roll call vote.
Solosik,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Patton.
Yes.
Motion passes. Number 18, official notice to agencies considering requesting county funding for fiscal year 2021, 2022. Board of Supervisors requires that all funding requests are submitted to the Board of Supervisors by Tuesday, December 1st, 2020 at 4:30 p.m. Applications must be accompanied by documentation to substantiate the request. You may provide documentation you own, or you may request a budget packet from the county auditor and recorder's office.
Lisa, will we be sending our letters out to the individuals that get annual funding, reminding them or not?
This is generally the official notice,
That should be just fine.
unless you want me to do.
I don't think it's necessary.
David Hicks has already required, he's the only one so far. I have the Word document, if anybody requests it, I have that to send to them. Generally, they give their own documentation.
All right, we'll move on to public forum. It's a time set aside for the public to make comments on topics of county business other than those listed on this agenda. No action will be taken on any of these topics brought up in the public forum. Do we have anyone that would like to make comments this morning?
Yeah, this is Jared, the treasurer. I wanted to give an update on our delinquent tax from last year. As you know, with the deadline extensions we had, we didn't have a tax sale in June. And so currently there's $424,000 that's uncollected from last year, which is less than 1% of what we were to collect of the 56 million. So the state of Iowa is giving the treasurers the directive to conduct a tax sale at some other time or roll it over into next year's tax sale. And so with the derecho that we had and just other concerning things for our citizens, it's best that our taxpayers have the ability to continue to do partial payments between now and next year's tax sale versus having to pay in full and the additional fees and interest to tax sale investors at this time. So that's the plan that we're doing moving forward. Of that 424,000 that's out there, 65,000 of it approximately is Marshall County money. 174,000 of it is the schools, with the bulk of it being the Marshtown School District. And I had spoken with the superintendent about this plan I was putting together to do this, and he was comfortable with that, as well as 128,000 is the cities. And the bulk of that is the city of Marshtown. And I spoke with the city administrator and the mayor as well about this. And they're all comfortable with this plan going forward. Of course, everyone wants their money as fast as possible, but it's a minimal percentage, and it protects our property owners. And we'll just roll it into next year's tax sale, and we'll get all that money recouped then. Plus, we'll get whatever gets trickled paid between now and then as well. So that is an update I wanted to give to you guys today.
Jared, how does this amount compare to uncollected taxes in previous years? Is it up or down?
So how it typically works is you get to that end of March, and then we get that second installment paid in March, and then we send the delinquent notices in 1st of May. And then when those delinquent notices go out, it captures a lot of the taxes that are unpaid at that time. And so we haven't had a specific delinquent notice that was sent out. We sent a mailer out that notified people of it, but usually that delinquent notice triggers a lot of those payments to come in. And then at that point, we are at about $300,000 to $400,000 that we offer at the tax sale. So the fact that we're at $424,000 is we're a hair above other years. But all things considering of the crazy year it's been, I'd say 424,000 at this point is pretty good.
Good. Thank you, Jared. Anyone else would like to speak?
I just wanted to talk about our debris sites. We were planning on closing them on the 31st. The one south of town on 265th, I definitely want to get that closed up. We'll start closing it up on Monday. And it isn't a big deal if we keep the one by Green Mountain open a little longer if we get calls, and it's because it's our right of way. So it's not a deal where, like, south of town, we're renting that property. So I want to get that cleaned up and get it back to the landowner.
Okay. Good.
But do you guys have feelings on it? Have you had much feedback? I think it's tapering off what people are bringing into the sites. The site south of town got really well used. I mean, I would say that acre is about 3/4 covered with tree debris.
Perfect.
Which one do you want, which could remain open?
The ones by Green Mountain that's on the old diagonal
Okay,
roadway that's not used anymore. It's just a couple of gates and we haven't had any trouble with, anything unwanted getting dumped in there really hasn't been a problem. And actually they've been excellent about the one south of town too. We haven't seen building debris. We haven't seen, the non-vegetative stuff. So
That's
it's
really
working
good to hear. All right, thank you. We have budget time approaching. So I guess we need to put together a letter here shortly, maybe within the next week or so.
Week to 10 days, we should send out our
Okay.
letter
Yeah.
to
All right.
department heads and elected officials.
All right, very good. So we're putting our department heads on notice here that we have to put together a budget in the next 2 to 3 months.
Some of us might have to do two.
Yes, they
Oh,
might.
yes, some of us might.
Oh, we're sorry.
I did want to report that James and I went over and tested the owl in the basement of the bank, and it seemed to work fine. So if we do
Good.
want to look at moving back over to Great Western Bank, we did kind of talk about getting a TV on a table in there in the corner as well. And so
Okay,
it's something we'd need a little notice to complete all the setup. But,
sure.
At this point, this is working, isn't it?
yeah, it's just if we want to open it up to have some public there. We had about 20, I think 4 chairs spaced out in that room for election training. We, put them every 6 feet apart and put them.
I am happy with using Zoom
I concur.
because this COVID isn't turning around, man. Why are we wanting to pull in and have 20 people in a room? I like what you're doing and thinking ahead, but I'm willing to stay here or
Okay.
I'll stay home.
Okay, I will then refer calls to you when I get
Okay.
complaints for not
Thank you.
allowing public. So
24th was a new daily record for the country.
I haven't heard
cases.
a thing from anybody.
I
Have we have some?
Well, how
I'll
come
just
they
refer
didn't
them
tell the
on.
supervisors then?
What?
You said you had some complaints?
Yeah, I will forward them on to you guys.
Okay, would you please?
Yes.
All right.
Currently 225 active cases in Marshall County.
I think it was 83,700 some was the case record that they broke on.
About a month ago, we were at 100, so we have increased.
What website's that?
This is James's little tablet thing. he uses. I'll send it to you. It's super helpful.
If there's no other comments then under public forum, I will ask for adjournment then. The next regular session is November 10th, 2020 at 9:05 a.m. All business to be acted upon at that session should be submitted to the County Auditor and Recorder's Office or the Board of Supervisors Office by Thursday, November 5th, 2020 at 1:00 p.m. There being no further business to come before the board, the meeting is adjourned at 9:56 a.m.